Hi guys, this is Siva Reddy. Welcome to the session on deploying WAR file on Tomcat 7 using the Jenkins. So Jenkins is a continuous integration tool which is going to help the software developers to automate few of the software development life cycle steps such as running the unit test cases, running the integration test cases, and building your software, and finally deploying your executable file to our target environment. So in this session I am going to explain how you can deploy a WAR file on the Tomcat 7 using the Jenkins. In order to proceed with this video, make sure that you install the below softwares on your computer. And I'm going to explain each tool why we are going to use as we progress. But make sure that you need to install the Jenkins, Git SCM plugin, and Maven plugin, and deploy container plugin. So these three plugins we need to include added to the Jenkins tool. Once you have done that, then it may or may not requires the GitHub account URL, because in this session I have created a small web project, and I have hosted this web project on this particular GitHub account. If you don't have the GitHub account also, you can pull the code from this one and you can continue with this video. And then you need to install the Tomcat 7, because we are going to deploy our executable WAR file on the Tomcat 7 environment. As we are using the Git as a source control management tool, so make sure that you install the Git on your computer, and also Maven. So I already installed all these softwares in my local computer. So I am going to show you which are the websites you need to visit. So this is my GitHub repository, where if you want to clone this particular piece of code, then you can use this URL and you can clone to your local. In this video, I'm not focusing on how GitHub works or how Jenkins works and how Tomcat works. The main focus is I'm going to create a executable WAR file, and I will show you how Jenkins will help you to automatically deploy the executable WAR file to the target environment, that is a Tomcat 7. So this is a very simple project I have created, and what happens is whenever you deploy this executable WAR file on the target environment, it is going to display you Jenkins successfully deployed WAR file in Tomcat 7. This is the message you are going to see, except that it does not have a much functionality. But here my focus is basically I want to show you the list of steps or the sequence of the steps you need to follow in order to achieve this particular task. Now the second one is you can download the Jenkins software from this website, Jenkins website, and similarly Apache Tomcat 7 also you can download. Currently I am going to explain how to deploy the WAR file on the Tomcat 7, but if you want to follow the same if you want to deploy to the Tomcat 8 also, you can follow the same steps. Now let us go ahead and start. Now these are the softwares I already downloaded. So I will show you what are the things it requires. First one is you need to have the Java. It needs to be installed on your computer. So it is already there in mine. So make sure that you already install the Java, and then we need the Maven also need to be installed. So Maven version. So in my computer, the Maven version is 3.3.9. It has already installed, and then I already installed the Tomcat 7 anyhow, and then finally Git. So if I shift right click, then you can see that Git bash option here, and that means I already installed Git on my computer. So if you want to see what the version I have installed, Git version. So I already installed Git version 2.7.3.windows.1. So I am good to go with the to deploy the our WAR file on our Tomcat 7. So before that, what we need to do first, we need to start the Jenkins. So in order to start the Jenkins WAR file, jar dash jara jar, and then Jenkins WAR. Now this is going to start the Jenkins server. Once this started, it can be accessed through the localhost 8080 port number. Localhost 8080. So it takes a few seconds to actually up and running. And then in the meantime, let it be. Then we will go through the Tomcat step. Now, Tomcat I installed on my I downloaded the 7.0.65, and I can go to the bin directory basically. Okay, so I go to the bin directory. Here, right click, shift right click, then you will get an option for the open window, a command window here, and then you can start. But here one point I want to highlight is that now Jenkins is actually by default it is running on the 8080 port number. Now even if you by default Tomcat also what happens is it also by default port number is 8080. Hence if I start Catalina Catalina.bat.start, then it says that already 8080 is already port number 8080 is already used. Hence you can see an message saying like the binding exception you will get it. Okay, so initializing binding exception it will come. So JVM bind 8080 because it is already used the Jenkins already using the same port. Hence we need to change the port number for this particular Tomcat. How we can do that one is go to the config and then open the server.xml file. In this we have a connector port number here. So this we need to change actually. As in my local I already starting the Jenkins on the 8080 port number. That is the reason I am changing this particular port number. Otherwise it is not required. Okay, now what I can do is I can start my Tomcat also. Now in order to start the Tomcat, catalina.bat.start. Now it will start the Tomcat server which can be available at the port number 9090. So my Jenkins is up and running. So I have account with the admin. So that is the reason I told you that this video does not focus how Jenkins works. I am expecting that you already installed the Jenkins and you know how to work with the Jenkins. Then this steps then in this tutorial what I'm going to explain how you can deploy how you can deploy the WAR file using the Jenkins automatically to the Tomcat 7. Okay, so the next step is you can execute the Tomcat on 9090, port number 9090. So once you seeing this, if you see this message also, if you are seeing this, you have successfully installed Tomcat. Congratulations. Now, in order to deploy the var file or the ER file on the Tomcat server, you need an admin privileges. So just try to click on this server. As we didn't configure any users yet, it will give you an alert message saying like we are not, it is not at all authenticating. So in order to do this authentication, we need to add in users to this Tomcat server. That means admin users we need to use. If you see here, you are not authorized to this view to this page. This is because we haven't set up any admin users for the Tomcat. So what we are going to do is we are going to create a one user, and then that user we are going to use for to we are going to create a basically admin user. Using that we can access this access these pages. So in order to create the Tomcat user, we have to go same the config folder and then Tomcat users and try to edit this one. And what we need to do is we need to create a two roles actually. Let me copy paste here, and then one roles we need to. So what I am going to do is there are two roles it requires. One is manager GUI and another role is manager script. And these two roles we are going to give for the user admin, and password also I am providing as a admin, and this admin have the roles for both manager GUI, comma manager script. Okay, so once we add this roles to this particular user, now this user is an admin for this particular application to deploy the WAR files. Now what I am going to do is I will just restart this server. Start. Okay, so it is starting. Yeah, it is up and running. Now let us go ahead and start once again. Access the admin. Now we are able to access the Tomcat application using the admin. So now this user has an access to deploy the WAR files onto the Tomcat server. Now what we are going to do is, using this admin user, we are going to add in plugins to the Jenkins, and we are going to provide this users for the deployment. Then Jenkins, once it builds the project, automatically this will deploy the WAR file to the Tomcat server. Now let us go ahead and start. Now once you log into the Jenkins, first step what you need to do is you need to install the plugins. Whatever the plugins I explained in the mandatory for this tutorial, that needs to be installed. In order to install, go to the manage plugins, and from this plugins you can see that whatever the available softwares, and from here we need to select the SCM plugin, Maven plugin, and deploy to the container plugins. Okay, so these three are mandatory to proceed with this video. Okay, so once again I show you, make sure that you install these three plugins, and then you can continue. If you see the installed softwares list, you can see that all these softwares is already installed on my computer. One is Git plugin, so this is already installed, and next one is deploy to container plugin, this is also installed, and then Maven integration plugin. So these three softwares is already installed. So what we are going to do is, once you complete the installation of these three plugins, then you come to Jenkins folder. We are going to create a new item, and here I am going to give the project name as Tomcat deployment. This is the freestyle project. Click OK. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to connect it to the GitHub repository. Hence, select source code management as a Git, and we need to provide the repository URL. As I explained, we need to give the repository URL for this Jenkins WAR file that can be accessed to this URL. So what I am going to do is I am going to provide the my GitHub repository URL, and as this is the public domain, you may not require the credentials, but if it is any private repositories, then you need to make sure that you need to add the credentials. For example, for my account, so Siva Java Tech is a user, that is my GitHub hosted username and password. Similarly, you can create your own GitHub repository and you can provide the credentials. In order to provide the credential, just click on this add button, and Jenkins, here you need to provide the username and then password, and also give the some description, so that what happens is when you next time when you come to the repository URL and the credential, it will give some description about it, what it means, which credentials are mapped to the which repository. Okay, so once you have done that repository URL, by default it has the master branch only, no need to change anything here. And the next step what you need to do is we need to create the build step. So in the build step, we are executing the Windows bash command. In this Windows bash command, I am going to give the mvn clean package, because my project is the web project. So when Maven clean and build package it will create a var file. And then once this build successful, in the post build actions, I need to say that on what this needs to be deployed to the container. So we need to add the post build action there, deploy var or er to the container. So what is my var file is, when, as we know that when Tomcat build your application, it is going to place the var or er file on the target folder. So target and then project file name Jenkins var file, and context path is not required. And then if you give, so the next one is the containers. Currently we are going to deploy the var file on the Tomcat 7. And also in order to deploy the var file on the Tomcat, we need the admin user. That is the reason what the admin user we have created there is admin is the username. So I am going to add this one in the global admin. I'll say that Tomcat admin in the description. Similarly, here also I'll say Tomcat admin. Then add it. Sorry, space it is not taking. So I can say that admin. So add to the credentials list. Now you'll see option admin, and then Tomcat URL. Currently in my local, the Tomcat can be accessed through the port number 9090. So we need to provide this URL. So now what Jenkins is going to do is, first it is going to pull the, that means it is basically clone the data from this GitHub repository, and then it is going to execute the Maven commands. Then it is going to build the var file, and finally it is going to deploy the var file on the target environment, that is the Tomcat 7, and say no. So now I have created a project in the Jenkins to do all these steps. Before we run, we need to configure one more step, because once you add the plugins, what we need to do is go to the manage plugin, manage Jenkins, and then go to the global tool configuration. In the global tool configuration tool, we need to provide the few steps. For example, what is the version we want to execute, and that is the reason you need to make sure that JDK installation whatever your computer has there, then configure that one. Similarly for the Git also, which location you have installed the Git, and similarly for the Maven. So make sure that these three you need to set up in the global tool configuration, because by using these tools, by using this configuration, Jenkins will try to execute all the Git and Maven commands. So make sure that you also configure here. Once this is everything is done, now I can go to the Jenkins, and Tomcat deployment is our project. And now click on build now. Now what it is going to do is, if the configuration everything looks proper, then this will pull the code from the GitHub repository, build the project and create a var file, and once creating var file completed, then it is going to deploy to the container and build will be successful. If there is any mismatch or the wrong with the configuration, then it is going to fail. Let us see, let us wait for some time so that it will, in the meantime it is going to complete the build. Now once again let me refresh here. It's not yet completed, it's still running. So if you want to see the progress on the build, you can just click on it and see the logs. So build is successful. See, whatever I explained, everything you can see step by step. So first what it has done is, first it has fetched the code from the Jenkins var, and then it started executing the Maven commands. See, Maven clean package it has done, and then build is successful. Sorry, we need to give the complete URL here. So this has failed because it's saying that localhost is, it is unable to find the localhost. Just what we need to do here is go to the project and configure, and go to the configuration step. Here just we need to give the complete https http colon localhost 9090. Okay. Okay. Save it and then build once again. Now it will start building it. So again, if you want to see the status, click on the arrow. Now build is successful. Now if I open the console again, then we can see that, so it has similar, it has cloned it and then executable successful, and has created a var file, and finally it has deployed our var file to the local. Now if I go ahead and see the application, list of application, Jenkins var is deployed. Now once you click on it, then you can see that Jenkins successfully deployed var file in Tomcat. So we successfully deployed var file on the Tomcat using the Jenkins. So once again I am going to iterate the steps. What first step what we have done is, this is the GitHub project which is going to create a var file, and once var file is created successfully, then it is going to display a message saying like Jenkins successfully displayed var file on the Tomcat 7. And the next step what we have done is, in the Tomcat we have included the necessary plugins, that is SCM plugin, that is Git SCM plugin, and the Maven plugins, and also deploy to container plugin. Once these plugins are added, then you need to do the configuration, that means global tool configuration, where you need to provide the necessary paths of your local, so that Jenkins use those configurations while executing the Git and the Maven commands. Once that is done, we have created a project in order to execute this complete process, that is Tomcat deployment. This Tomcat deployment will have the first step is need to configure the GitHub URL, and then we are given the we have given the Maven command to build the var file, and finally we have provided the post build action as a deploy var to the container which has done the deployment part of it. Hope you are clear with the steps how we are going to deploy the var file on the Tomcat. And if you have any questions, please comment on my YouTube video. Please do subscribe to my YouTube channel to get more technical videos. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day.